Pokemon gym leaders really are the backbones of the games, if you ask me, because they're going to be what the player experiences for the most part of the game as like the major hurdles to get over. So I feel like a lot of importance is placed on them, rightfully so, because they are very integral to the gameplay loop of the game, always needing to be the next gym leader, so on and so forth, get the gym badge, defeat the Elite Four, and eventually become the champion. And one of my favorite aspects of the gym leaders is a lot of their visual design and the way that plays with their type specialty, whatever profession they may have because of it, their personality, and their Pokemon of choice. So, for that reason, I would like to have this little video here designing my own gym leaders. I got the idea from a YouTube channel called March Club. Check them out if you haven't. I'll leave a link somewhere around here. So I did kind of take the idea like semi wholesale from them. I saw their video. I thought it'd be fun. But for this, I want to do a gym leader of every type. This video will cover like half of it. I'll have another one sometime in the future. But I wanted to go around it in a different way than March Club did in theirs, because they were more like strategic about it, I guess, and they have a lot of thought put into it. And my brain simply is not big enough for that kind of thought. So I'm just basing this more on general vibes, I guess, more than anything. So the only thing I base the gym leaders around is I just pick my favorite Pokemon of every type, and I'm just going to base the gym leader around that. So I kind of just create a list of my favorite Pokemon per type, some of which I'm going to care a lot more about others, and the dual types I just covered as I saw fit, I guess, mostly whichever one just came up first. In March Club's video, they did like the whole like gym leader design, their team, their gym, and all this kind of other crazy stuff. But for this one, I'm just going to mostly cover just the Pokemon gym leader's design, maybe a little bit of their team, and maybe a little bit of their gym. I have like some rough notes I just came up with while like the process of drawing these. And the order for these is going to be purely arbitrary. There's not going to be really a lot of rhyme or reason as to why. It's, again, just because this is what I felt like in order of writing them down. So please be patient with me if your favorite type doesn't come up till much later. But I think that's all I really wanted to get out of the way before getting started. So we'll go ahead and start with our first gym leader, which will be Fire type gym. Alright, so starting off with the Fire type gym, I do want to specify I did create some limitations with myself that for the Pokemon that I chose to be the basis of the gym leader's inspiration, I didn't want to double up on anything. So if I had a Pokemon that was, say, dual type and it was like a ground fire type, I didn't want to just use that one for both the fire type and the ground type gym. So I went ahead and just broke it up so they would be different, just to not, be redundant, I guess. And another rule I want to implement was no starter Pokemon, save for one. I allowed myself one because like most people play the games, I assume they get very attached to their starter Pokemon, especially the one from their first generation they ever played. Ergo, into the fire type I chose was Typhlosion, because my first Pokemon game ever was Pokemon Heart Gold on the DS, and my starter of choice was always Cyndaquil. So getting into the design for the gym leader, actually, I didn't really know what to do for Typhlosion, because considering he's just a starter Pokemon, they cover like a weird like gray area in Pokemon where you never really see a lot of other trainers use them. So I thought it'd be fun to have a gym leader who was like an old school trainer himself kind of character, like if Red became a gym leader pretty much. So I assume he'd be like, I didn't want to just design Red as a gym leader, so I wanted to make him like similar, I guess, but like differentiate him enough. So I went with like the sporty design you see a lot of the trainers, but I want him to be a bit aged up to show like a bit of maturity, I guess. I had a lot of fun coming up with these designs. I got to pick a bunch of different inspiration and reference images from the games and the promotional art, so I got to find a lot more unique art from the series that way. I also tried experimenting a bit more with these, so you'll see at the end drawing with this guy at least. I tried some new shading methods. This was the first gym leader I drew, so he didn't really like come out as well, I think, as the other ones did, because I kind of found my groove immediately after this one, which made me kind of want to redraw it, but I also want to like just kind of stick with it. So like for this leader, I'll just go ahead and spoil. I named him Crimson, just because most of the Pokemon protagonists end up having names based on the games, at least in the Pokemon Adventures manga, which I prefer reading. It's taking as like, I don't know, not like canon, but like the fun canon source, I guess. For his team, I ended up wanting to go with like a for all of the gym leaders I came up with, really, I want to do a mix of Pokemon from all the different series that I've played. At least I haven't played Scarlet and Violet, so I don't know any of the Pokemon from that game, so I didn't really pick any. But for Crimson, I wanted to go with a mix of like fire dual types to like kind of cover his type weaknesses. I just kind of designed all the gym leaders the way I normally play Pokemon by trying to maximize, or I guess minimize my type weaknesses and maximize the amount of types I have coverage over. So obviously Typhlosion is like his ace Pokemon. Magcargo, Houndoom, Chandelure, Talonflame, and Salazzle I think would make fun choices, mostly because I feel like their types would really create a lot of challenge for the player if they were to go against them. And for his gym, I had like this fun little idea because he is an old school trainer type. If he played into the game's base mechanics of the like super effective like attack type differences. So I thought it'd be fun if his gym was all based around having trainers that use different types of Pokemon from him. So they'd have like, so you could fight like trainers who specialize in water type Pokemon, grass types, and they'd be all different throughout the gym. So you wouldn't be able to just specialize in dealing with fire types. You'd have to cover many different types to get to the gym leader. I just thought that'd be like a fun little way of making a simple little gym like that because it's very simple design, simple character. I just thought it'd be fun. But yeah, I think that's all I've got for Crimson, the fire type gym leader. So with that, I think we can go ahead and head over to our water type gym leader. All right, now for our water type gym leader. I had a lot of trouble with this one at first because, like I said before, they're all based on my favorite Pokemon, and my favorite Pokemon from each is really based on a lot of nostalgia and not necessarily what a good Pokemon is. So my favorite water type is actually Octillery, which is not very good in a lot of sense, but I still have a lot of nostalgia from using him in my Pokemon Diamond playthrough way back when. So for this one, I wanted to lean into that long-forgotten aesthetic of Octillery's militaristic themes, where Remoraid is literally like a rifle fish Pokemon, and Octillery, in its earlier sprites, was meant to look like a cannon. So I wanted to play with that, so I ended up going with the water-type trainer, or the water-type gym leader, as a Navy captain, which I thought would be fun. And I got to pull some One Piece inspirations for this one, so really a lot of that is just what made it so fun to me, I think. And this is the one where I really came into the shading style I liked. And I'll probably even end up using this for future pieces unrelated to the video. I just thought it was really fun. I just clipped a 50% opacity, like dark or shadow layer onto the colors, and then I clipped another layer on where I did like my hatching shading. That was really fun. I enjoyed that. I'll have to experiment with that more in the future. I really really had a fun time. And I felt like such a big brain when I found that one out. My initial sketch for this one, I think, was originally a diver because I really was not sure what to go with the water type gym leader because water type is not one of my favorites, to be honest with you. But I feel like I went in a better direction with it for this. For some like in-game lore stuff, I thought it'd be fun if maybe he had some dialogue hinting to like the war Lieutenant Surge references in like the original Pokemon games. Considering he is a Navy captain and a bit older, so I'd assume if he knows about a war, I mean, he would be there. Yeah, and for his gym, I thought it could be similar to, I think it was Skyla from Black and White, where he could use cannons that you'd have to move around, like blast open walls or maybe project yourself forward in some way. And that would open up a pathway to the gym leader. I thought that'd be like a fun puzzle for it. For his name, I ended up going with Captain Ower, as a reference to the Man o' War ships. I think they were like commonly used. I'm pretty sure they were like a big military vessel way back when. I'm not 100%, so don't fact check me on that. For his team, I ended up wanting to go with the militaristic theming even more, so I tried to pick Pokemon that I think would fit it, like obviously Octillery. Quillfish I think would work because he is kind of like a living like water mine to a degree. Mantine could be like an aerial like unit, kind of like a plane flying around. Kingdra's fun because it does have like a cannon thing with its mouth. Caracosta is like a good like I say water tank because that's what Octillery's supposed to look like, but an actual tank with some physical bulk and defense to it. And Clawitzer also has like a lot of lore about how strong it can shoot out, and it is based on like pistol shrimp, so I thought it'd be another fun one. All right, and that's all I've got for the water type gym leader. Now on to our grass type leader. All right, for Drew here, our grass type gym leader, he was a little bit more difficult for me because I never really gravitated to a lot of grass types outside of the starters like Sceptile and Torterra. So this is one a harder one to pick a favorite for because I didn't have any that I felt too strongly about. But I ended up going with Trevenant because I feel like his design was just really cool. I remember ever since I saw one in Gen 6, I really needed to get one. It was just so fun and definitely my preferred choice of grass and ghost type over Gourgeist. And again, as I stated previously, since the Ace Pokemon is what I base the gym leaders around, I really wanted to lean into the ghost aspect with them. So I made Drew like a kind of forest hermit kind of guy. You could probably tell that with the way I drew his dress and like the general vibe he gives off. I tried to pull that off at least. I couldn't tell or I couldn't decide personally if I want to make him like an occultist kind of guy because of the ghost type or just a like forest druid. I think the druid aspect works better due to his typing being grass, not ghost. But I think I ended up making it work. Oh, and for the sketch and the drawing, I'm sure you'll see that like I started drawing the Pokemon sizes with Captain Ower. So with this one, I will specify I did not look up any Pokemon sizes for this because Game Freak themselves does not keep it very consistent. So I don't try to either. So that's why I don't know how tall Trevor is supposed to be. For all I know, he could be the size of an actual tree. But I feel like this drawing came up pretty well. I liked getting to incorporate the actual Pokemon designs more because I'm going to say I feel like our Fire Gym Leader was the weakest design I came up with simply because I just didn't have a lot for him. But I feel like Captain Ower and Drew is where I really got the hang of things, and I hope that will reflect with the video going forward. But Drew was a fun one. I feel like I had a lot of aesthetic inspiration for this one going in. Again, like I mean, one of my favorite things I came up with was his staff with which holds Pokeballs inside of it, which I thought was fun because it could be like a lacrosse stick thing with like him being an old man. Maybe this is how he sends out his Pokemon to battle. Instead of throwing a ball out, he just flicks his staff and it flies out. Maybe even I thought his gym could be like the Lost Woods or Great Hyrule Forest puzzles from Zelda, where you have to like walk through, and if you get lost, you have to restart. And maybe instead of that, you just get jumped by a gym trainer that has to fight you. And for his Pokemon team, I wanted to make it more, I guess, like dark foresty vibe. So it's a lot of Pokemon that aren't. It's hard to explain because I get the vibe that there are some grass type Pokemon that are all like happy, cutesy, flowery types, and then some that are like, this is the part of nature that wants to kill you and put you back into the cycle of death and rebirth. So obviously, Trevenant is his ace. Parasect, I gave him a Leafeon. I think that's like the cutesiest one he has, really. Shiftry, Shiinotic, and Appleton. I feel like these are pretty fun Pokemon. They cover a lot of his types decently well, at least. Save for Parasect with the 4 times weakness to fire, but I feel like Appleton and Shiftry, I think they're fun little guys. I think this is a good team for him. For his old man kind of forestry old man, I guess, kind of vibe I try to go for with this one. But I think that's all I've got for Drew. Now we can move on to our electric type. All right, our electric type gym leader is Wira, which is a weird name that was a struggle to come up for. For this one, I initially envisioned like an electrician kind of guy, but I eventually, throughout working through the inspiration, realized there was a lot of electrician kind of guys as gym leaders for the electric type. So I ended up wanting to go with more of a like computer aspect, and that led me more into like a neat or hikikomori type of character. So I went with like a little computer nerd girl kind of character, which I thought was fun. And her ace is Galvantula, which is probably my favorite electric type. I remember that was a big one that I really had a fondness for in Gen 5, despite my real life fear of spiders dramatically so. For Wira, I know most Pokemon gym leaders are supposed to have like a job or something. I assume she's probably just like a IT tech or something easy, maybe even just like a online kind of like gig, like a stay-at-home job. So she can just work from her gym, and then sometimes people just come and try to fight her. For her design, I try to go with more of like a comfy clothes instead of like the sporty or more rugged look I've gone for so far with a lot of the gym leaders I've designed. I hope that comes through a lot better in the design. I really enjoyed getting to give her the big silly anime glasses. I don't know like what that stereotype comes from with like the swirl in it, But I remember like looking through my references. Clement had big glasses, but I wanted to differentiate her a little, so I gave her the silly ones instead. I also had a lot of fun getting draw her awful, awful posture as she's like slumped over sleeping while standing up. And I thought my idea to give like Galvantula shocks to wake her up like Pikachu was really fun because this is like the first one I feel like the interaction between the trainer and the Pokemon really came through a lot better, and I really enjoyed it because it really gives the vibe of how they interact as a team instead of just as a trainer and their Pokemon. For Pokemon, it was a little bit harder because I tried to go with stuff that wasn't too directly battle focused, but still like more like good like electricity generators. But I also didn't want to double up on anything that was like already pre-used as like a main focus for a Pokemon gym leader, which a lot of the electric type gym leaders do use their regional Pikachu variant. So for this one, it kind of I feel like her team just doesn't match her as well, but whatever. I went with Galvantulus or Ace, Magnezone, Lantern, Electivire, Stunfisk, and Vikavolt. I feel like those are pretty fun ones because I just think it'd be really fun seeing her interact with a big, bulky Electivire as just charge my laptop. I feel like it's just a fun way to get to interact with them, considering I don't think Electivire is used. Yeah, because Electivire was Gen 4, and Volkner didn't use one. He's an idiot and does not have a good team. For her gym, I thought it'd be fun if maybe she could use like a series of computer puzzles. Maybe you have to like send messages back and forth of some sort, but some kind of computer-based puzzle. Maybe it's like you have to complete little captchas or something. I don't know, something fun like that. But I think that's all I got for our electric type gym leader Weira. So now we can move on to the bug type. All right, for the bug type gym leader, it was pretty difficult considering Galvantula, I guess, is technically my favorite bug type, but since I didn't want to double up, I went with my second favorite, Ledian, which is one I feel like is really underappreciated and one I wish got more support by Game Freak as either a like new Mega Form or something, or a new third stage evolution. Considering I think it's really cool. It's like a punching bug type of Pokemon. So like I would love it like an evolution to make it bug fighting, so it gets stab and higher stats for its like fighting type moves. It's just really depressing, if you ask me. But as for the trainer, we have Hopper Mask here, who is a very like obviously Tokusatsu esque hero, very common rider in image, I guess. I thought it'd be fun considering like a lot of the bug type trainers are pretty boring and standard. We have like Bugsy and Aaron of the Elite Four and Sinnoh and a photographer lady from X and Y. And they're just pretty like it's so odd because they're just so like normal. It seems like Aaron doesn't have like really a theme. I don't think. I don't remember. He just dresses normally, like normal Pokemon trainer sporty clothes. And the X and Y bug leader is just a woman. Just she's just a photographer. Like her gym is bug themed, but her herself does not seem to have very many bug aspects outside of I guess like taking pictures of insects, which is pretty minimalistic if you ask me for like gym leaders at least. Bugsy is the only one I feel like really goes with the theme because he is the idea of like a bug catcher, like in an upper stage. So he's like a leader bug catcher. But for this one, I wanted to up the ante on that a little bit. So I went ahead and just made him a full blown like superhero kind of character. Very, like I said, Common Rider esque. I think the design really helps him with that because I think it's fun whenever Pokemon gym leaders have like some kind of alter ego kind of thing. Like Crash or Wake, for example, you'll see him on here, or not a gym leader, but the Master Royale from Sun and Moon I thought was fun. Maybe even for his gym leader, he could initially show up in like normal clothes, and then like a fade of black, and then a spotlight shines on him, or the entire gym lights up, and he reveals himself in his superhero alter ego. I thought that'd be a fun way of introducing him. I also had some fun details you could add with how his suit would work during his combat. So like maybe his eyes would glow whenever he declares an attack or something like that. I thought that'd be fun. Or whenever he summons a new Pokemon, the Pokeball like shoots into his hand from his belt. So like it shoots out like a Batman utility belt kind of thing. I thought that'd be like a fun way of incorporating his superhero identity into being a Pokemon gym leader. And for his gym, I thought it'd be pretty fun if you could just have it like a dark woods and have like a light puzzle. Or something akin to the forest puzzles for the Master Sword in the Zelda games. So I think it was like Hyrule Forest or like the Dark Forest or whatever it was. I'll forget, but from the Zelda games, that'd be like a fun reference. All right, and I think that's all I have for Hover Mask, our bug type gym leader. So let's go ahead and move on to our normal type gym leader. Alright, for our normal type trainer, this one was really fun because normal type is actually my favorite type in the game, which I know sounds a little weird considering it's kind of like the normal type, so it's a lot of just average animals, but I think there's a lot of fun to be had in that. And a lot of my favorite Pokemon are normal types, like, for example, my favorite Pokemon of all time, Apom. I absolutely love the little guy ever since I first played Heart Gold when I was a kid. I just like monkeys. He's a funny little monkey with a hand on his tail. So for the gym leader himself, I tried leaning more into the more modern use of normal type, as meaning a beast type in a way. So you'll have a lot of animals that are normal with some supernatural aspects, like Pyroar or Sawsbuck, which are just lion and a deer, but they have like breathe fire a little bit, which is weird because that's kind of what Pokemon are already, but beside the point. But with that in mind, I tried leaning more into the beast type, like I said. So I thought it'd be fun to make the normal type gym leader a kind of like a beast master tamer kind of guy. So he's very like the design. I'm sure you'll be able to see very Steve Irwin-esque. I want to be like a friend of animals kind of deal. He might even have something to do if they bring back like the Safari Zone in this game, this hypothetical game. Maybe he could have something to do with the Safari Zone. I don't know about like directly leading it, but maybe his gym could be in there, and part of his gym challenge could be completing some kind of task in the Safari Zone, similar to Kabu's gym in Sword and Shield. Again, this is one that I had a lot of fun working through because it's like one of the first ideas I had in mind because I was like, oh, well, normal type's my favorite, so what would a normal type gym leader be? And I just think the idea of having a beast tamer type character is so fun because I don't think we've had anything like that in Pokemon, which is really odd considering the entire point of the game is beast taming in a sense. But I like him. I like him. For his name, I found it hard because I didn't want to just name him Steve or Irwin because I felt like that was the first thought that came to my mind. But I was like, what do you name like a normal guy? Because we already have Norman, which I feel like is a pretty basic choice, pretty first obvious thing to name a guy who uses just normal type Pokemon. Might end up going with Bob because that's just a normal name. I thought it'd be fun to have like this big, bulky guy surrounded by these like these wild beasts and animals, and he's hello, my name's Bob, or I don't know about British, but yeah, he could just say his name's Bob. But yeah, I thought that'd be funny to have like just a normal name for a guy in a Pokemon game, and they all have like kind of weird names mostly. But yeah, I think that's all I've got for our normal type trainer Bob here. I really had a lot of fun coming up with this one. A lot of like the inherent implied backstory, I guess, with the design, like the scars all over him from like training his team. But yeah, I think with all that, I think we can go ahead and get on to our next gym leader, which can be our flying type leader. All right, now we have our flying type gym leader, Wright, and I feel like his name is a pretty obvious homage to the Wright brothers. It was just the first thing that really popped in my head, and it stuck better than anything else I came up with, so that's where I really went with for it. Now, for the general philosophy here for his design, this is the one I feel like is impacted by the Pokemon I chose the most, which is Gliscor, which is another one of my absolute favorite Pokemon, probably my second favorite Pokemon of all time, right behind Apom. Gliscor is ground flying, so he's not actually flying. He's a gliding type Pokemon. So because of that, I thought it'd be fun if instead of making him like a kind of pilot like the normal flying type gym leaders are, what if he was instead some kind of like a gliding coach or something, like paragliding. He takes people on like trips or whatever. And then I also had the weird idea for some reason. I thought it'd be funny to make him like a little kid. So in this mix of design inspirations, I ended up coming up with this little kid who I assume is spoiled and teaches people gliding at some kind of resort his parents own of some kind. So this is just literally just the absolute like inconceivable amount of thoughts that popped in my head that all led to this. I don't know why this happened, but this is the outcome we got. I think it actually turned out all right for what it is. But like I said, Gliscor is not much of a flying, more of a gliding Pokemon. So with that idea in mind, I tried basing most of his team around Pokemon that, while have the ability to fly, are mostly gliding based. So a lot of like a Jumpluff, Togekiss, Archeochop, Archeops. I forget how to pronounce that one. Braviary and Hawlucha. I want to include Braviary as more of a reference to getting back on to like wherever he's going to glide off of. So he glides down with Gliscor or Jumpluff or whoever, and he has Braviary bring him back up to do it again. I thought it'd be like a fun way of like building logic into his team in a weird way. I don't know if that's the right word I want to put for it, but it's just what comes to mind right now. For his design, it's obviously very aviator esque. I really wanted to focus on the not necessarily pilot, but the wannabe pilot kind of aspect. So he has like the aviator glasses and the jacket and the kind of combat esque boots, but it's very obvious that's not chosen for any specific reason other than it looks cool. I did enjoy the Golbat t shirt though. I thought that was a fun little detail. I like that a lot. And lastly, for his gym, I thought it'd be fun to make it kind of gliding based. So, like, maybe it's some kind of like a tower structure where you start at the top and you actually have to make your way to the bottom to actually challenge the gym leader. I thought that'd be a fun way of incorporating like the gliding motif into the challenge of the gym. So you have to make sure you're going in the right direction. Kind of like the ice puzzles in Generation 2. And I think there were other ones that had like the slipping and sliding on ice, but that's just the first one that comes to mind. All right, and that's Right and Gliscor, our flying type gym leader. And with that, I think we can go ahead and get on to our fighting type gym leader. All right, for our fighting type gym, we have Ken, who I originally envisioned as instead of a natural martial arts kind of character who's well trained or anything, I wanted him to be more like a street brawler, like a kid trying to be the kind of Jackie Chan esque fighter or characters you might see in like the fighting games of his local arcade, and trying to emulate that himself, but in like the Pokemon world. So it's a weird way of describing it, but yeah, I want him to be like a little kid trying to be a street fighter in a sense. So you'll see in the design he's very much trying to emulate characters like Ryu from Street Fighter, obviously. That's where I get his name from because I thought it'd be ironic the kid trying to emulate Ryu would have the name of Ryu's main rival, Ken. Obvious comparison there, I know. I thought it'd be fun. He could be like a little street punk kind of kid who just gets into fights all the time. I noticed in my research, a lot of the fighting type gym leaders are often trained martial artists in a sense, and you don't get a lot of this just back alley brawler type of energy. So I wanted to really bring that in with his design. I even thought maybe for his gym, the entire challenge could be some kind of like a rough tournament structure in the gym, and it could just be full of a bunch of youngsters with fighting type Pokemon that battle you over time. So maybe that could be part of the challenge. And for my favorite fighting type Pokemon I pulled for this, it was Scrafty, which is mainly where I pulled the Street Punk inspiration from. I always just thought Scrafty was such a fun little design. And I think giving it to like a little kid trying to be a Street Fighter, it makes a lot of sense because Scrafty itself looks very dorky, trying to pull its pants up all the time. And even its evolved form just gets like a rough Mohawk-esque design. But I still think it's really cool and it really fits for the character, I think. And again, to match with that Street Fighter, just very aggressive punk theme, I wanted to give his team more flavor than a lot of the other fighting types, which are just random, whatever the new fighting types were of their generation. So I tried picking Pokemon that were fighting type, but specifically mostly based around just being extremely aggressive and not nearly as much of like the trained or honed skill type fighting types we see a lot in the series. So like Lucario or Hitmonlee or Hitmonchan, those kinds that just really have an I don't want to say aura because it's a little overused and a pun technically, but has that aura just naturally honed and trained skills. Whereas his team could be more just outwardly aggressive, like a Scrafty, obviously. Primeape, Breloom, Toxicroak, Crabominable, or Pessimian. Those are all Pokemon that I feel like are just naturally more aggressive, and that's where they get their fighting type instead of any kind of like honed trained skill in a sense. Oh, and another little quirky detail about his design that you won't see until the ending whenever I show the colored version. The way I went coloring about these designs, I tried taking colors from their Pokemon that they use, and that ended up having his shirt, which has a bunch of boxing fists on it, looking like pizza, which I just thought was funny after the fact, but I wanted to keep it just because it's fun, and maybe there could be some kind of like in-joke in the game about the kid with the pizza shirt. But yeah, I think that's all I've got for Ken, our fighting type gym leader. So now we can get on to our last one for the video, our psychic type gym leader. Alright, lastly, for our psychic type gym leader, I'll start off by saying my favorite psychic type Pokemon was Behem, which is a weird choice for many, I assume. It's kind of like a random Pokemon from Gen 5, and it really isn't very powerful or useful, I guess, like competitively speaking, from what I've heard. But I really like it. I think it's a fun little alien design, and it's kind of cute. So I went with that. And I also just think the lore of it being like an actual alien in the Pokemon universe is really fun. And I really wanted to use that to play on the theme for the gym, which is going to be alien communication away, where our gym leader here, Ripley, obvious alien inspiration, I know, but our gym leader, Ripley, he's an amateur alien communicator, so that's like kind of his whole shtick and passion that he really wants to reach out to extraterrestrial life. And this was another really fun one where I found the interaction between the Pokemon and the gym leader to be like a fun, like comedy duo in a sense. Where in how I interpret the BHM, I say interpret, I made them. So I think it's funny if the BHM and Ripley kind of like get along in a weird symbiotic relationship where he found BHM while he was like researching something or out like the desert somewhere, and maybe BHM takes pity on him in a sense and kind of like gives him like fake alien signals just to make him feel like he's actually finding something. So I thought it'd be fun to have like a quirky guy and his little alien companion who just wants to make him feel better about his silly hobbies. I thought it'd be like a fun, quirky kind of like duo to pair up. For Ripley's design himself, I wanted to go with an amateur science approach. So like I'm sure some of the designs you'll see, I feel like they're too professional in a sense. So Ripley has like a loose science coat, but it's on top of like a turtleneck and like casual clothing. So I feel like that plays in the sense that he's not like an actual scientist in any sense of the word, really. He's just kind of like a backyard scientist, we'll say. I also like the idea of him building his own goggles just to see radio waves, which doesn't really help him at all. He just sees where they're coming from. He can't translate them really at all with it. It's just kind of like a useless invention in a sense. For his gym and his team and like the general theme, I obviously wanted to go with the alien inspiration. So I wanted to pick Pokemon that could be interpreted as having alien origins. So I went with BHM, Slowbro, because that one he could potentially see as like, oh, well, it's so dumb. Maybe it can communicate with aspects of the stars because it's psychic abilities or whatever. I don't. The idea plays in my head. I just don't know how to get into words right now. Claydol. I think there's some dex entries about Claydol being like ancient, so maybe it could play into some kind of a ancient aliens philosophy. Same with Brazong. Musharna can see into dreams, so maybe he can use that. Maybe he thinks he can use that, I should say, to communicate with aliens that only communicate through dreams or whatnot. And lastly, Orbeetle, which I feel like is a pretty obvious one because he can literally turn into like a giant UFO thing through Gigantamaxing. And for the gym itself, I thought it'd be fun if it had a puzzle that could use message transmitters to, like, of course, share messages across the stage. So it could share terminal entries between itself. So let's say you have to have a password to get into one part of the gym to progress, but the message or the pin pad code is on a terminal on the other side. You can somehow, through a puzzle, get it from that terminal to the terminal next to the door. So it's like a fun little choice where you can either choose to try and memorize it to get through, or you can do the puzzle to have it automatically go on to the next terminal, so you can just put it in over there. I know there's ways you can cheese that by like writing it down, but it's like a kid's game, so that'd be fun. It's like a simple thing for them to do. But yeah, that's Ripley and BHM, the psychic gym leader, and the last one of the video. So that's what I've got for now. Stay tuned, I guess, for part 2 whenever that comes out. Hopefully it'll be like my next upload within a couple weeks or so. But I'll try to be covering the rest of the types I didn't cover here. I'll get into it there. Pretty much the same style, so if you enjoyed this, please feel free to subscribe so you can get that next video whenever it comes out. God, it feels so weird doing that. I don't like, I hate begging people for things. But if you like the video, feel free to like it, subscribe, and you can comment, tell me what you think. I do like getting comments. I like getting feedback. So please, if you think of anything that I can like maybe do better, change, or if there's any other kind of things you don't like about the video outside of just the way I sound or just bullying me, that would just make me cry and feel really bad. Please don't do that. but please feel free to do anything I guess you want in the video. And with that all being said, I guess I'll see you next time. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, afternoon, evening, morning, whatever it is for you. And I'll see you.